But one farmer says, seems to me there was a tea party in Boston that was illegal too.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold.
We shall seek to establish and maintain a dollar which will not change its purchasing and debt-paying power during the succeeding generation.
As anguished shrieks rose up from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
Government credit and government currency are really one and the same thing. A reserve of gold and a small reserve of silver.
Why do central banks hold it?
Well, it's a form of reserves.
Why don't they hold diamonds?
Well, it's tradition, long-term tradition.
Well, some people still think it's money.
We've been covering the endless printing of money on this channel for quite some time, and lately it has reached fever pitch. It's now happening every single day. We covered last night the new relationship between the Fed and the Treasury, modern monetary theory, endless debt, endless printing of money, and it's only going to continue. And with that, as expected, we are seeing a run on physical delivery for precious metals, specifically gold. Over the past few weeks, it's been discovered and discussed about the COMEX running into problems with delivery, price disconnects on future supply deliveries, and the spot price. We've made that aware, we've talked about it. You've seen it in other places on many of the gold sites. Let's take a look at today some very, very interesting developments, a bombshell, if you will. Bullion Star has been sharing some very interesting links to back up their assertions that the COMEX doesn't have the gold they say they do. And they've been pretty good about doing some investigative journalism and releasing the links and documents and news stories related to that accusation. I was notified of some of these links this morning from Paladin Stacker, awesome supporter and reporter in the field for the Junius Maltby channel. He found some of these and was just sending them my way, making sure that I had seen this information. Now this is right out of Bullion Star. It says COMEX bombshell, most eligible vaulted gold. Has nothing to do with COMEX. COMEX bombshell, most eligible vaulted gold has nothing to do with it. The COMEX bombshell that 50% of the eligible gold is not part of deliverable supply means there is far less gold available. Now this is coming on the heels of a tweet and some links. These links will be down below so you can explore them and read them on your own and see exactly what's in them and where it comes from the CME group. But this information and this discussion is coming right on the heels of this information from April 12th. And these are the same bullion bank market makers, the same investment banks that run the LBMA spot gold market making cartel. Welcome to gold price discovery in the world of CFTC regulatory capture and the BOE and Fed supported bullion banks who also control the Bank of England and the New York Fed. Now what it is he's writing about this tweet here, COMEX securing secrecy agreement with CFTC under the Freedom of Information Act not to release details to the public of its market maker program for the new 400-ounce gold futures contract hatched with the LBMA. Remember, we discussed this new contract and new gold price discovery mechanism that COMEX is coming up with in this deal with the LBMA. And of course, it was born right out of the moment when they were having problems with delivery. Because disclosure would likely, this is in quotes, and this is their own words from COMEX, because disclosure would likely cause competitive harm to COMEX. We're going to look at these documents in a moment. And the program began April 13th. So expect some volatility and gyrations in the gold market. Again, this is further proof why you need to get physical. Everybody needs to just pull the gold off the market and crush these guys. And if you're a billionaire out there and you think you have gold in the COMEX, you might want to think again. There's a lot of wonderful tweets down below these posts on Bullion Vault, and I just grabbed these two before we get into the meat of these articles and discussions here. This Alfred E. Newman says disclosure would likely cause competitive harm to the COMEX. He's responding to their statement. FIFA, disclosure would likely cause default and collapse of the COMEX. And then Gray Zone there saying, funny how that works. Full disclosure and COMEX goes under. Obfuscation, and they keep going like they actually do have sufficient gold. They are basically saying the king has no clothes, but we don't want anyone to look. Let's all pretend. And that's exactly what this is. The king has no clothes, ladies and gentlemen. The COMEX has no gold. And as I said, I'll put the links down below. That's not to say they'll stay up. You could have them deleted or removed from the internet. Who knows? But for now, here's a couple of screen grabs that'll exist until YouTube pulls this video. This is from CME Group, March 27th, 2020. And it's FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, Confidential Treatment Request. Now, surprisingly, some of this information was confidential and redacted, as in it's not there, it's deleted, it's invisible. They're not going to release the information that should be on Appendix A here. Now, my simple guess for all of this is the COMEX was running into some serious trouble with delivery, as we've discussed, and has become evident, and they panicked. And now they need secrecy to hide and shield their mafia-like endeavors. Let's read this here as they ask for legal protection. Pursuant to Sections 8 and 8A of the Commodity Exchange Act, as amended in Commission Regulation 145-9D, COMEX requests confidential treatment of Appendix A, on the grounds that Appendix A contains confidential commercial information of the submitter, COMEX, pursuant to Commission Regulation 145.9D5, COMEX requests that confidential treatment be maintained for Appendix A until further notice from COMEX. We also request that the Commission notify the undersigned immediately after receiving any Freedom of Information Act request for said Appendix A or any other court order, subpoena, or summons for the same. Finally, we request that we be notified in the event the Commission intends to disclose such Appendix A to Congress or to any other governmental agency or unit pursuant to Section 8 of the CEA. COMEX does not waive its notification rights under Section 8F of the CEA with respect to any subpoena or summons for such Appendix A. Please contact the undersigned at 212-299-2200 should you have any questions concerning this letter. We should start calling that number and raise questions concerning this letter and ask them where the gold is. Interesting here. Mr. Kirkpatrick and COMEX. This is them. Is it not obvious what they're doing? They were building a defense prior to the exposure of them defaulting and failing to deliver gold that people were physically demanding to be delivered. This has been going on for some time. We know the charade here. This is a shell game. It's all smoke and mirrors. The COMEX is running into problems, and they've oversold the amount of gold they claimed to have, and it looks like now they want to create a legal shield of secrecy to hide what it is they are doing behind closed doors. Let's read through this underlined section here from GoldSeek. I pulled a screen grab off of their website because they did a good job of highlighting in red what we should like to read here. And this is from the other piece of information, the implementation of the Gold Enhanced Delivery Futures Market Maker Program, COMEX submission number 20 through 174. To implement the Gold Enhanced Delivery Futures Market Maker Program, the proposed program will become effective on April 13th, 2020. Dear FOIA compliance staff, I am writing on behalf of Commodity Exchange Inc., COMEX or Exchange, a subsidiary of CME Group, in accordance with the requirements set forth in Commodity Futures Trading Commission. Regulation 40.8, COMEX hereby submits its detailed written justification in support of continued confidentiality of the information set out in Appendix A to submission number 20-174S, Appendix A, and respectfully requests that the Commission not release the information contained therein. And here we see in red, this is from GoldSeek, disclosure would likely cause competitive harm to COMEX. Notwithstanding this presumption of confidentiality, the confidential information in Appendix A still would be considered confidential because it is information that COMEX would not have disclosed to the public, and its disclosure would cause substantial harm to the competitive position of COMEX. Freedom of Information Act was enacted to facilitate the disclosure of information to the public, but was clearly not intended to allow business competitors cheap access. And they're using, what they're saying is, they think it would create competition and ruin the market that they have a niche in. It might threaten their product. They don't have a product. These guys, their entire existence surrounds manipulating the gold market and selling gold that doesn't exist, that's not even above ground yet, pretending they have vaults full of gold, and then issuing paper certificates to people that when those individuals call for the delivery of that paper certificate, these guys either try to talk them out of it or tell them it's impossible, they can't do it, and make excuses like we've seen recently. It's a criminal syndicate. I mean, come on now. It is what it is. I mean, come get me, COMEX guys. You think Mr. Kirkpatrick's going to come find me, come get me? Nah. A wuss like that has to send goons or statists to do the dirty work for him. Because that's, and again, we're going to go off on a little side alley tangent here. The guys that enforce stuff for guys like Mr. Kirkpatrick, the CME group, and the COMEX, they're the most ignorant robotons on the planet. The guys that wear those boots and run around and do their bidding, they're just lap dogs. They're like the dogs in Animal Farm. They're just dumb. They were raised up as puppies by people like this, and they do their dirty work. These guys aren't going to get their hands wet. But I'll tell you one thing. What's going on here and what you're seeing is a significant red flag for people that might be questioning whether or not they should purchase gold at this point or what might be happening. There's a significant supply problem, friends. A big one. And it's worse than I think a lot of us even anticipated. And it's showing its ugly head sooner than I guess I thought. I didn't think we'd see COMEX issues of this magnitude this year. I'll be honest with you. I did not see this coming. Throughout these documents, we're seeing the COMEX essentially begging for protection, begging for privacy, begging that nothing be disclosed, that they are allowed to operate in complete shrouded secrecy. They don't want anyone to know what they have, what they're doing, or how they do it. Now, isn't that disturbing to you? Think about it. It's not like they have some patented technology or they have a particular product. No, they're just dealing with metal, a chunk of metal. They're dealing with gold. It's something on the periodic table of elements. That's it. They don't have something unique. It's an object people have had for 10,000 years. It has an atomic number, and that's it. It's an element. It's essentially just an element. According to some, it's an archaic and barbarous relic. It's just a rock. I've heard some people refer to it as my pet rock. Well, if gold is so unimportant, if it's so worthless, if it's only held out of tradition, why all of the necessity for secrecy, for covert operations, for government and bank assistance? I am very confused here how anyone can point out gold's worthlessness and how gold is this or gold is that and speak disparagingly and negative about it when there is this much protection around the activities involved with the movement and the dealings of and with gold. Do you see what I'm saying here? Look at the vaults, the underground vaults protected in England and New York. I mean, come on now, wake up, people. This isn't about anything else. It's about gold. It's about protecting gold. It's about centralizing who owns it, who possesses it, and they're trying to control the gold supply internationally. And they're also trying to hoard it like dragons right now. The wealthy elite. I'm not even talking about the 1%. I'm talking about the 1% of the 1%. The elite of the elite are trying to corner and control all of the gold on the planet before a reset and before the fiat empire comes crumbling down. They want the people to hold the paper. They want the people to hold equities and trash, garbage, pensions, mutual funds, 401ks, 457s, real estate that's going to be worth less, that kind of a thing. They're trying to control the gold and they want the gold for themselves. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. Let's take a look at the article on GoldSeek because he has some very good insights into this discussion. And we're going to read this brief part here. You may recall that we've been warning of the outrageous volume of COMEX EFPs exchanged for physical for years. For the calendar years 2018 and 2019, the COMEX swapped out over 14,000 metric tons of contracts for alleged physical metal in London. And this process grew even more extreme in 2020, as the first 3 weeks of the month saw 290,000 COMEX gold contracts exchanged this way, exchange for physical. Here's the link from the last post dedicated to this subject, written on March 10th, and he has an article there. For today's discussion, let's begin with a brief, simplified summary of how we got here over the past few weeks. The banks swap 290,000 COMEX contracts, that's over 900 metric tons of gold, into EFPs in just the first 15 trading days of March. The Fed announces QE infinity on Monday, March 23rd. COMEX gold price soars over $100. A party or parties seek actual immediate delivery of COMEX 100-ounce gold bars through the EFP. Next, COMEX must admit that it has no 100-ounce bars to deliver on Tuesday, March 24th. The CME and the LBMA make a joint announcement on Wednesday, March 25th that a new settlement contract will be introduced for April 20th delivery. This contract will feature delivery of fractional ownership of 400-ounce London bars. And there's a link there. Ladies and gentlemen, need we say any more? You can see the writing on the wall, and the timeline of the tale says everything. These guys are in meltdown, panic mode, code red. In short, with an unexpected global supply squeeze, the COMEX was caught without enough deliverable gold. Through the change of rules shown above, the exchange and CME LBMA have been able to scrape together enough gold to maintain the illusion of physical delivery thus far through the April 20th delivery period. But it hasn't been easy. As you can see below, there have already been nearly 30,000 contracts delivered this month, more than 3 times the average volume of April's past. And you guys want to know why I have the affinity that I have for gold, because I know that the elite, the powerful, the wealthy, the banks, this is what they're going for. Yes, silver has value. I love silver, and I know there's problems with the silver market, the silver COMEX as well. There's also a price disconnect with physical and paper silver. I understand that clearly, but they never banned silver. Gold was illegal in the United States from 1933 to 1974 for a reason. Silver maintained coinage in circulation until 1964 in the United States. And then a little bit after that with the half dollar. You know that story, but that doesn't matter right now. The point of this is there is a significant problem with the gold world, and it's, I believe, going to reach a level that causes those who own gold to be in a much more powerful position than those who do not when it comes to maintenance of wealth and finance in the future. It's going to be very important to hold physical metal. I'll tell you, it's going to be defining. It's going to be defining. It will be there are those who own gold and those who do not. And I think it's very important. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. If someone, don't take this channel ever as financial advice. We're talking about history, coinage, economics, and things like that. If you make decisions based on that, that's all on you. And I read an article today, a friend of mine sent me, it's an older one, but about the Egyptian fellow that bought, he's a billionaire, and he put 50% of his wealth into gold back several years ago, and it's increased since then 40%. He's sitting on a tremendous amount, billions of dollars of gold. And that's him, he's a billionaire. Robert Kiyosaki. And that's all I do here is I quote people that do know significantly more than I do. And, he talked about buying gold, silver, and crypto with what's going on right now. And it should be obvious, should be evident to most of you. Let's read this closing portion here from that article. And now these banks are finally being called upon to deliver metal against their fraudulent contracts within their fractional reserve scheme. It is abundantly clear that the scramble for physical gold and silver is on, and if you don't hold it, you don't own it. All of this bank and exchange scheming should prove once and for all that there is no transparency fairness, and honest operation within the bullion bank fractional reserve and digital derivative pricing scheme. Instead, there are lies, cover-ups, distortions, illusions, charades, deceptions, tricks, gimmicks, counterfeits, deceit, duplicity, and frauds. My friends, we are reaching a point in history, again, that we have never been in. You cannot equate this to anything. None of you can relate to it. I can't relate to it. The generations before us cannot relate exactly to what is going on right now. So the decisions we make are critical. They have to be strategic, and they are our own. We have to make decisions now. This is not a time for hesitation. Hesitation during times of crisis like this leads to failure and major mistakes. We have to be decisive, strategic, and well, you know what we should do. And I think many of you are already doing it and have done so before this point. Many of you became disheartened during some of the past gold crashes. I know that. And I don't even want to call them crashes, corrections, manipulations. When it peaked in 2011, some of you panicked. Some of you lost it. Oh my God. And you saw the articles. You believed the FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You lost faith in metal. It's understandable. I didn't. Again, I've said before, don't look at the day trade price. Don't even look at the 1 year percentage price. You got to look at the big picture, the historic picture, because the truth will win out in the end. Now look at it. A lot of you might have dumped gold then. Who knows what you did with the money? If you held dollars, well, that's too bad because they're worth a heck of a lot less and you're not getting the purchase. You're way behind then. The purchasing power is gone. If you held them in dollars at 0.01% interest and now you're buying back in again, you lost big time. You should have stayed in gold, should have stayed in silver. This is going to be a defining moment. Physical's hard to get. I went on online today. It's next to impossible to get some of the reputable coinage that I've looked at in the past. Again, gold sovereigns are gone. Much of the U.S. gold is gone. The mints are shut down. We've seen that. The U.S. mint is not going to be minting. It's the way it is globally at this point. So there's a major supply disruption. The mines are closed. We're reaching inflationary situations. And again, it doesn't happen overnight. A lot of people expected, the $1,200 checks came, the next day prices change. That's not how it works. Inflation, the money has to be spent, work its way through the system, and there's a tremendous amount of lag time. But it will come. It will come. The $6 trillion plus more that they are spending and pumping into this system, it will find its way into price discovery for everything, especially commodities like gold and silver. You just have to wait for it. All right, thanks for tuning in to the Junius Maltby channel. Leave your comments below. Do what you can to crash the COMEX and break it down. Buy physical metal. Demand for it to be delivered. Hold it and hoard it yourself and hide it away. Don't be afraid. You can do your part to wreck these guys in the paper contract world of precious metals today. All you have to do is go out there and buy some physical. I don't care if you have to buy 1 silver ounce for $18. I mean, come on now. Who cares? It's 18 bucks. Buy an ounce of silver today at the conclusion of this video. If you can, buy a 10th ounce of gold or a gram of gold. Get gold off the market. Wreck these guys. Break the COMEX. Shut them down. All right. Take care. Have a good one.